The Psychology of Money. Timeless Lessons on Wealth, Greed, and Happiness. By Morgan Housel. Have you ever felt like you're running on a financial treadmill? You work hard, you earn more, but somehow, that feeling of real security, of true freedom, remains just out of reach. You follow all the rules, you study the charts, you listen to the experts, but something is still missing. What if I told you that the biggest obstacle to building wealth has very little to do with how smart you are, how much you earn, or the complex investment strategies you use? What if I told you it has everything to do with psychology? In this audiobook summary, we're going to dive deep into one of the most important financial books of the 21st century, The Psychology of Money, Timeless Lessons on Wealth, Greed, and Happiness, by Morgan Housel. Together, we will explore why doing well with money isn't about what you know, but about how you behave. We'll uncover the hidden biases, the emotional triggers, and the counterintuitive truths that govern our financial lives. By the end of this journey, you won't just have a new set of tools. You'll have a completely new framework for thinking about money, one that can lead you to a richer life in every sense of the word. Are you ready to discover how? The architect of financial wisdom. So who is the guide on this journey? Who is Morgan Housel? He's not your typical Wall Street guru shouting from an ivory tower. Morgan Housel is a partner at the Collaborative Fund and a former columnist for The Motley Fool and The Wall Street Journal. But more than that, he is a master storyteller. He has a rare gift for taking complex subjects like behavioral finance and economic history and weaving them into simple, powerful, and unforgettable narratives. His approach isn't about spreadsheets and formulas. It's about people, stories, and the timeless patterns of human behavior. This book, The Psychology of Money, became an instant international bestseller precisely because it speaks to a universal truth. Managing money is one of the greatest shows on earth, a drama where your own mind is the main character. He's not here to give you hot stock tips. He's here to give you a mirror. And what a reflection it shows. Let's start the show. The Genius and the Janitor. Let me set the scene for you. Imagine a swanky hotel in Los Angeles. Valets are scrambling to park gleaming supercars. One of the frequent guests is a technology executive, a certified genius who designed a key component in Wi-Fi routers. He's wildly successful. He also carries a literal brick of $100 bills, which he loves to show off. One day, for fun, he and his friends buy thousands of dollars worth of gold coins and proceed to skip them into the Pacific Ocean, cackling as they watch their money sink. Days later, he shatters a $500 lamp in the hotel restaurant. When asked to pay, he pulls out his brick of cash, throws $5,000 at the manager, and says, "Now get out of my face, and don't ever insult me like that again." You might be wondering how long that kind of behavior can last. And the answer is, not long. Years later, Housel learned the man went completely broke. Now let's meet another man. His name is Ronald Read. He was an American philanthropist, investor, janitor, and gas station attendant. No, that's not a typo. Ronald Read was born in rural Vermont, the first in his family to graduate high school. For 25 years, he fixed cars at a gas station. For another 17, he swept floors at JCPenney. His main hobby was chopping firewood. He lived a quiet, humble, and completely unremarkable life, until he died in 2014, at the age of 92. That's when this humble janitor made international headlines. In his will, Ronald Read, the man who lived in a simple house his entire life, left $6 million to his local hospital and library. His friends and family were baffled. Where did all that money come from? There was no lottery win, no inheritance. And here's the crucial part. Ronald Read's secret was that there was no secret. He simply saved what little he could and invested it in blue-chip stocks. Then he waited. For decades. He let his tiny savings compound into more than $8 million, from janitor to philanthropist. So what's the lesson here? We have a financial genius who ends up broke, and a janitor who ends up a philanthropist. Housel points out the fascinating truth. Finance is one of the only fields in the world where someone with no degree, no training, and no experience can massively outperform someone with the best education and the best connections. And you know why? Because financial success is not a hard science. It's a soft skill. It's not about how smart you are. It's about how you behave. It's about the psychology of money. This entire book is built on that powerful idea. Are you starting to see the picture? No one's crazy. People do some crazy things with money. We see it all the time. But here's the hook. No one is crazy. Your personal experiences with money make up maybe 0.01% of what's happened in the world, but they make up maybe 80% of how you think the world works. Think about that. Everyone listening to this has a completely different view of money, risk, and saving. And why is that? Because we've all had different lives. The person who grew up in poverty thinks about risk and reward in a way the child of a wealthy banker could never fathom. The person who saw their parents lose everything in a stock market crash will view investing with a level of fear that a tech worker who only saw the 2010s bull market can't imagine. The person who grew up with hyperinflation will treat cash very differently than someone who grew up with stable prices. Housel shares a stunning finding from a study by economists Ulrike Malmendier and Stefan Nagel. They discovered that our lifetime investment decisions are heavily anchored to the economic experiences we had in our own generation, especially in our late teens and early 20s. It's not about intelligence. It's not about education. It's just the dumb luck of when and where you were born. If you were born in 1970, you saw the S&P 500 increase nearly tenfold during your teens and 20s. You probably think owning stocks is a fantastic idea. If you were born in 1950, the market went literally nowhere during those same formative years. You probably see stocks as a source of frustration. Two equally smart people, with two completely different, deeply held beliefs about how the world works. And this leads us to a powerful conclusion. We see people buying lottery tickets with their last few dollars and we think, that's crazy. But maybe for them, that ticket is the only tangible dream they can hold of getting the things that others take for granted. We're not condoning it, but we can begin to understand the psychology behind it. We all tell ourselves a story about what we're doing and why we're doing it. A story shaped by our unique experiences. So, the first step to mastering your money is to stop judging others and to understand the unique story that has shaped your own financial mind. What story have you been telling yourself? The dangerous twins, luck and risk. What's the difference between a bold visionary and a reckless fool? Hindsight. Morgan Housel tells another brilliant story from his own youth. Bill Gates, as we know, is a genius, but he also had a 1 in a million head start. He went to Lakeside, one of the only high schools in the world in 1968 that had a computer. 1 in a million. At that school he met Paul Allen. They had unlimited access to this machine, and they became programming prodigies. That experience was the seed of Microsoft. Gates himself says, if there had been no Lakeside, there would have been no Microsoft. That's luck. But luck has a sibling, and its name is risk. At Lakeside, there was a third member of that computer gang, Kent Evans. By Gates's own account, Kent was the best student in the class, equally skilled with computers, and shared Bill's intense business ambition. They planned to go to college together, to be CEOs together, to conquer the world together. Kent Evans could have been a founding partner of Microsoft, but it would never happen. Kent died in a mountaineering accident before he graduated high school. The odds of being killed on a mountain in high school are roughly 1 in a million. Bill Gates experienced 1 in a million luck. Kent Evans experienced 1 in a million risk. The same force, the same magnitude, working in opposite directions. And here's the point that will change how you see success forever. You cannot respect one without respecting the other. When we look at successful people, we see their skill, their hard work, their genius. We tend to ignore the role of luck. And when we see failure, we see bad decisions and laziness. We tend to ignore the role of risk. This is a dangerous trap. Why? Because we're all trying to learn lessons from the success and failure of others. But if we don't account for the wild, random, and powerful forces of luck and risk, we end up learning the wrong lessons. We try to emulate things that can't be emulated. So what's the takeaway? Focus less on specific individuals and more on broad patterns. Trying to be the next Warren Buffett is a fool's errand, because his results are so extreme that luck must have played a huge role. But realizing that people who have control over their time tend to be happier, that's a broad, actionable pattern you can apply to your own life. Remember, nothing is ever as good or as bad as it seems. Can you see how powerful this humility is? The poison of enough. Let me tell you about two men who had everything and threw it all away because they wanted more. Rajat Gupta, born in the slums of Kolkata, orphaned as a teenager. He started with less than nothing. By his mid-40s, he was the CEO of McKinsey, the world's most prestigious consulting firm. He sat on boards, partnered with Bill Gates on philanthropy, and was worth a reported $100 million. An incredible, inspiring story. But that's not the end of the story. Gupta was surrounded by billionaires, and he wanted in. He didn't just want to be a centimillionaire, he wanted to be a billionaire. So he started making phone calls. As a board member of Goldman Sachs, he got insider information and fed it to a hedge fund manager, making millions in illegal profits. His reputation, his freedom, his legacy, all destroyed. For what? For more. Then there's Bernie Madoff. Before he became the most notorious Ponzi schemer in history, he ran a wildly successful and legitimate market-making business that made him fabulously wealthy. We're talking tens of millions a year in clean money. But it wasn't enough. He wanted more. And so he built a house of cards that ruined thousands of lives, including his own. These are extreme examples, but they illustrate a universal danger: the moving goalpost. The hardest financial skill is getting the goalpost to stop moving, but it's one of the most important. The moment you want more money, more power, more prestige, faster than you are satisfied, you are on a dangerous path. One step forward pushes the goalpost 2 steps ahead, and you start taking bigger and bigger risks just to feel like you're catching up. Modern capitalism is a master at 2 things: generating wealth and generating envy. And the fuel for this envy is social comparison. There is always someone with more. A baseball player making $500,000 a year feels poor next to his teammate making $36 million a year. That teammate might compare himself to a hedge fund manager who made $340 million in 1 year. That manager compares himself to Jeff Bezos. The ceiling is so high that no one will ever hit it. So how do you win this game? The only way to win is to not play, to accept that you have enough, even if it's less than those around you. Life isn't any fun without a sense of enough. And here's the key. Enough is not too little. Enough is realizing that an insatiable appetite for more will eventually push you to the point of regret. There are things that are never worth risking, no matter the potential gain. Your reputation, your freedom, your family and friends, your happiness. And the best way to keep these things is to know when to stop taking risks that could harm them. To know when you have enough. The unseen force. Compounding. What is the most powerful force in the universe? Albert Einstein allegedly said it was compound interest. Whether he said it or not, the principle is earth-shatteringly true. But our minds are not built to understand it. We think in straight lines, but growth, true growth, happens exponentially. Housel uses a brilliant analogy: ice ages. You don't need a cataclysmic event to freeze the planet. All you need is a series of summers that are just a little too cool to melt the previous winter's snow. That leftover base makes it easier for more snow to accumulate, which reflects more sunlight, which cools the summers further, which leaves more snow. And in a geological blink of an eye, you have a continental ice sheet. A tiny, insignificant change, compounded over time, creates a world-changing result. This is exactly how money works. Let's look at Warren Buffett. We study his genius, his strategy, his wisdom. But we miss the simplest, most important fact. Of his $84.5 billion net worth, $81.5 billion of it came after his 65th birthday. His skill is investing, but his secret is time. Let's run a thought experiment. What if Buffett started investing at 30 instead of 10, made the same phenomenal returns, but retired at 60 to play golf? His net worth wouldn't be $84.5 billion. It would be about $11.9 million, 99.9% less. The real key to his success is that he has been a phenomenal investor for 3/4 of a century. It's not just about the rate of return, it's about the length of time you can keep that return working for you. And here's the interesting part. This is why so many of us fail at investing. We are obsessed with finding the highest returns. We chase the hot stock, the latest trend. We want big results now. But good investing isn't about earning the highest returns, because those tend to be one-off hits you can't repeat. It's about earning pretty good returns that you can stick with for the longest period of time. That's when compounding runs wild. It's not about being the smartest. It's about being the most patient. The cornerstone of your financial strategy shouldn't be complexity. It should be consistency and time. Getting rich is one thing. Staying rich is another. Getting money and keeping money are two completely different skills. Getting money requires taking risks, being optimistic, and putting yourself out there. Keeping money requires the opposite. It requires humility. It requires fear. It requires the deep-seated paranoia that what you've made can be taken away from you just as fast. Let's travel back to the great crash of 1929. Jesse Livermore was one of the greatest traders of his day. In a stroke of genius, he shorted the market, betting it would fall. While the world was financially ruined, he made the equivalent of $3 billion in a single day. He was a master at getting wealthy. But what happened next? Overconfident, he made bigger and bigger bets. He lost everything. He took his own life. The skill he lacked was the skill of staying wealthy. And what is that skill? In a single word, survival. The ability to stick around for a long time without wiping out or being forced to give up is what makes the biggest difference. Why? Because compounding only works if you can give it years to grow. Survival is the bedrock of compounding. So how do we cultivate a survival mindset? Housel gives us 3 ideas. Aim to be financially unbreakable, not to get the biggest returns. Cash is the oxygen of freedom. Holding more cash than you think you need feels conservative, but it's a powerful tool. It prevents you from being forced to sell your stocks in a panic during a bear market. That single decision, not selling at the bottom, can do more for your lifetime returns than picking a dozen winners. The most important part of any plan is to plan on the plan not going according to plan. The world is full of surprises. A plan is only useful if it can survive reality. So, you need room for error. A margin of safety. This isn't just about being conservative. It's about raising your odds of success by increasing your chances of survival. It's the gap between what you think will happen and what can happen while still leaving you capable of fighting another day. Be optimistic about the future, but paranoid about what will prevent you from getting there. This barbell personality is vital. You can believe that the long-term odds are in your favor, while also knowing that the road between now and then is filled with misery and landmines. And that's okay. Short-term paranoia keeps you alive long enough to exploit long-term optimism. Are you starting to see how these pieces fit together? Humility, patience, and paranoia are your greatest assets. The real price of admission. Here's an idea that, once you grasp it, will change your relationship with markets forever. Everything has a price, but not all prices appear on labels. Successful investing demands a price, but its currency is not dollars and cents. It's volatility, fear, doubt, uncertainty, and regret. These are the fees you pay for the chance to earn returns greater than cash. And here's the problem. We try to get the reward without paying the price. We try to time the market to get the returns without the volatility. But the money gods do not look kindly on this. Housel wants us to perform a simple mental switch. Think of market volatility not as a fine but as a fee. What's the difference? Fines are a punishment for doing something wrong. You're supposed to avoid them. Fees are what you pay for something worthwhile. You pay $100 for a ticket to Disneyland because you know you're getting an amazing experience in return. You don't see it as a punishment. You see it as the price of admission. Market volatility is the same. It's the fee you pay for the magic of long-term compounding. It's the cost of admission to get returns greater than cash and bonds. Once you see it this way, your entire perspective changes. You stop trying to avoid it, and you learn to endure it. You realize that the occasional 20% or 30% drop is not a sign that you did something wrong. It's the normal, routine price of being in the game. Find the price, and then pay it. The highest form of wealth. We've talked a lot about the how. But what about the why? Why do we even want to be wealthy? The common answer is to buy nice things. A fancy car, a big house. But Housel argues this is a dangerous illusion, which he calls the man-in-the-car paradox. When you see someone driving a Ferrari, you don't think, wow, the driver of that car is so cool. You think, wow, if I had that car, people would think I'm cool. We use other people's wealth as a benchmark for our own desire to be liked and admired. The irony is, no one is as impressed with your possessions as you are. What you really want is respect and admiration. And humility, kindness, and empathy will bring you more of that than horsepower ever will. So if it's not about impressing others, what is the true goal? What is the highest dividend money pays? It's one word: freedom. The ability to wake up every morning and say, I can do whatever I want today. That is the highest form of wealth. The ability to do what you want, when you want, with who you want, for as long as you want, is priceless. This isn't about being able to retire and do nothing. It's about control over your time. It's independence. A little bit of wealth means you can take a few days off work when you're sick without worrying about the bills. A bit more means you can wait for a good job after being laid off, instead of taking the first one you see. 6 months of emergency savings means you're not terrified of your boss. More still means you can take a job with lower pay, but more flexible hours, or a shorter commute. Eventually, it means retiring when you want to, not when you need to. Using your money to buy back your time and your options has a lifestyle benefit that no luxury good can ever compete with. And this leads to the most important definition in the entire book. Wealth is what you don't see. Rich is a current income. We see rich people. They drive fancy cars and live in big houses. But wealth is hidden. It's income not spent. It's the nice car not purchased, the diamond not bought. The first-class upgrade declined. Wealth is financial assets that haven't yet been converted into the stuff you see. Its value lies in offering you options, flexibility, and growth. It's the money that's working for your freedom. Spending money to show people how much money you have is the fastest way to have less money. The grand unification of your financial mind. So what have we learned on this journey? We've traveled from the mind of a broke genius to a wealthy janitor. We've seen how the invisible forces of luck, risk, and time shape our destinies. We've unmasked the poison of enough and the seductive nature of pessimism. We've discovered that wealth isn't what we see, but the freedom it buys us. The core message is revolutionary in its simplicity. Your behavior is more important than your intelligence. Your humility is more valuable than your expertise. Your patience is more powerful than your ambition. This isn't just about investing. This is a psychology for living a richer, more intentional life. It's about stopping the endless chase and defining what enough means to you. It's about building a life that gives you control, that gives you options, that gives you the one thing no amount of money can truly buy: time. Now, I want to ask you a few questions, just to see if the gears have started turning. What is the real price of the financial goals you're chasing? Not in dollars, but in fear, stress, and uncertainty. Are you willing to pay that fee? Think about the last major purchase you made. Did you buy it for yourself, or did you buy it for the story it would tell other people? What does freedom mean to you? If you had complete control over your time tomorrow, what would you do differently? And what's one small step you can take today to buy back a little piece of that freedom? Finally, whose game are you playing? Are your financial decisions guided by your own goals and your own timeline, or are you taking cues from people playing a completely different game? Don't stop here. This summary is just the first step. If these ideas have resonated with you, I urge you to read The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel. It's packed with more stories, more insights, and more wisdom that will fundamentally change your relationship with money forever. Because the greatest returns are not financial, they are psychological. Thank you for listening.